Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Today, we're headed to Virginia along the front lines of Spotsylvania during the 1864 Overland Campaign, where the Union and Confederate armies are waging an unrelenting clash of arms, resulting in little advantage for one side or the other. Between May 9th and May 21st, the list of casualties was considered by some as outright slaughter. 18,399 Union soldiers and 12,687 Confederates, an average of a man per minute for 12 straight days. When it was all over, Confederates declared victory because they successfully defended their home turf. The Union also declared victory because the offensive continued. It can be fairly stated that the men on both sides suffered severe privations from the grinding nature of the warfare that pushed soldiers to the limits of physical and mental endurance, to the breaking point and beyond. In field and forest, soldiers struggled through drifts of gun smoke and storms of lead and hail into a maelstrom of death and destruction beyond the imaginations of most. This was the inhumanity of war in all its bloody carnage. One of the blue regiments caught in the thick of the fray, the 20th Indiana Infantry, suffered as much as any unit in the battle. Among the men in the ranks of Company A is the corporal pictured here, William Charles Henry Reeder of Peru, Indiana. Reeder wrote 2 letters to his parents during the battle, that 12-day battle, one on May 16th, another on May 20th. Almost 150 years later, in 2008, his descendants, Carolyn and Jack Reeder, published the letters in a book titled From a True Soldier and Son, The Civil War Letters of William C. H. Reeder. In these letters, Reeder confirms the intensity of the struggle by recounting what he did and saw. I'm going to read these letters to you. The first one is dated Front Lines near Spotsylvania Courthouse, May 17th, 1864. Dear parents, he writes, I am thankful to say that through kind providence, I am permitted to write you once more. I am well, with the exception of a cold and being somewhat fatigued from continued marching and fighting. We've been fighting every day since the 5th of the month. This is back beyond Spotsylvania to the wilderness. And we, that is our division, have been on the front lines all the time. We've not been relieved long enough to even make a cup of coffee. We are at present behind our front line of works, and the skirmishers are occasionally exchanging shots. We are on the ground that the grand charge was made by our division. We charged early in the morning and took them by surprise. We took 2 generals, 7,000 prisoners, and 18 pieces of artillery. It was a grand thing, but many a man lost his life. A reader, in fact, is describing the fierce fighting along the Mule Shoe Salient. It's a projection along the Confederate earthworks. And part of that salient became known as the Bloody Angle for the horrific amount of death that occurred there. Reader continues. There is where we lost our captain. He had his leg broken and lay between Rebs and our fire. And when we got to him, he had 11 shots in him. He was not dead when brought out, but he soon died. He lies now about 25 yards from where I am, buried under an apple tree. We are very much reduced in strength, having lost most 2/3 of the men. We have 19 enlisted men in the company. Out of 100 is a full complement. In the first engagement, we had over 40. We have some 23 or 25 killed or wounded. That is all that have been killed as yet that we know of. All the rest are wounded, most of them only slightly, I am glad to say. This is one of the hardest campaigns I ever was in, and there's no likelihood of it soon coming to an end. I think it is the intention to keep right on until something is gained or lost. It has been raining most of the time for the last 5 days, which makes it very disagreeable, and the men, being compelled to throw away everything except what they have on their backs, are beginning to look awful. The day of the charge was made, we fought all day and the following night, steady, without cessation, and it rained all the time, and we had to lie in the trench and on the wrong side of the breastworks in the mud all the time. Such a set of muddy men you never saw. The Rebs tried very hard to get their works again, and they charged several times, but were repulsed every time with great loss. They got as far as the works several times, only to die in them. I saw and counted 58 on a square of 20 feet. I saw, in one place, 7 lying across one another in a pile, and in several places, I saw them 3 and 4 deep. I tell you, it is terrible to think of, let alone behold. When I think of it, it makes my heart ache. But such is war. I hope it will be over soon. They've been reading a great many orders to us about what is being done in the other parts of the line. If true, it is very good. But generally, when we are doing our fighting heretofore, they read such orders to cheer the men, but they do not listen to them anymore, and none of them receive a cheer as they used to. We say, wait until we know them to be true, and then there is time enough. This one, or succession of battles, is the hardest ever fought. It will surprise the nation to hear the loss summed up. I dread to hear it, for well I know the number will be large. We've had over 200 taken out of our regiment alone. We are not 200 strong right now, so the 1,000 will be a full complement. There is a very poor chance for sending mail, and as yet we have not received any. I shall send this the first chance I get, and hereafter I will try and write you oftener, or as often as I can. There is no use of my saying anything about narrow escapes, for we have had all of them. I'm only too thankful to know that I am alive and well. Remember me to all inquiring friends, and believe me, as ever, your son, William C. H. Reeder. 4 days later, on May 20th, 1864, he wrote another letter to his parents, and this time, the wear and tear of battle, the day after day, the day in and day out of fighting, is taking a bit of a stronger toll. This one is date lined resting near Spotsylvania Courthouse. Again, the date May 20th, 1864. Reader writes, Dear parents, I am thankful to say that I am still alive and well and among those numbered present, although how long I will remain so is more than I can say. I have just eaten a hearty supper, and as I have been writing some this afternoon, I thought I would write you again, fearing that you may not receive my first that I wrote a few days ago. The sending of mail is rather doubtful at present. We have received but twice since we started. I heard from grandfather. I suppose it would be useless for me to enter into details regarding our fighting, for we have been fighting every day since the 5th of the month, and as far as I can see, it is likely to last as much longer or until there is something gained. They're straining every nerve. They're even doing what seems inhuman. They are making the men that have light wounds keep with the army and do all they can. Some are shot in the feet, hands, and legs. Some of our boys were in Washington in the hospital 6 days and were brought back under guard. There was some mismanagement somewhere. Yesterday morning, we came to our present place to rest and wash up, and in the evening, Ewell, that's Confederate General Richard Stoddard Ewell, with his corps, attacked our flank where the supply team was passing, and he undertook to take it with him, but it was too large a job for him. We were run about 3 miles, our whole corps, and we pitched into him and cleaned him out completely and recaptured all back that he got in his hands, which was about 4 or 5 wagons. Some new troops got at them first. They suffered heavily as they fired into one another. We lost but 2 or 3 out of the regiment. I understand that our corps is to go to the peninsula to reinforce Butler, Major General Benjamin Butler, or some of them. It may be an idle report, but nothing is impossible nowadays. I will try and keep you posted as regards our moves if I can get letters through. All is quiet this evening, and unless we have night marching to do, we will get our night's rest. I lay in the skirmish line all last night, not more than 15 steps from their rifle pits. They retreated in the night, and we followed them up this morning and got about 1,500 prisoners. The generals are pretty worn out and would like a rest, but there is no stop the wagon now. The ball must roll until something is accomplished. It beats all that men can stand, but we do. If I had been told about it when we left, I would have laughed at them. But we are getting used to all these things, and it is like anything else. I will tell you something you will say is impossible, but it is really so, for I saw it myself. Where we charged and fought all day and night over the breastworks, there were trees cut off by rifle shots that were 18 inches through. Think of the lead that was hurled through them. It was here that the rebels lay so thick that I spoke of it in my other letter. It is getting too dark to write any more this evening, so I will close for the present. Remember me to all my friends. I remain as ever your son, W.C.H. Reader. Little footnote about the 18 inches of tree being shot through by lead, by bullets, possibly artillery shells as well. One of those logs can be found in the National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. Reader survived all of it and kept on fighting, along with the rest of the 20th Indiana Infantry. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.